I hate when people compare animals to humans, but if you take in consideration the strong attachment many single women have with their animals, it's like being a single mother. You know what I mean? And we just talked about that. The dogs are their kids, so it's just another hurdle. Dating and relationships are hard enough. So adding hurdles, adding problems, putting shackles to your ankles before you run a race, not a good idea. You want to do all you can do to not make difficult things more difficult. You know what I mean?
And you know, Alexander, I think these ladies,
You are now listening to the authentic male perspective on dating and relationships. What is he thinking?
And now, without further ado, your host, Alexander B. Stevens.
All right, let's kind of move away from that subject and move on to a few other things, or maybe more than a few other things that Kevin talks about. One of his controversial episodes, he basically says that a single woman having pets hurts her dating life. You should only get a pet after you get married and have kids, because pets are for houses, pets are for families, they're not for single people. What else did he say? Having a pet can limit your availability as far as being out on the dating market. You're cutting dates short because you got to come home and walk the dog or things of that nature. 40% of people don't like pets or they're allergic to pets or whatever. So if you become a pet owner, you eliminate 40% of the opposite sex because they're not into pets, etc., etc. He basically, and he doesn't stress this too much because it's pretty unpopular in 2022 to be anti-pet. And he doesn't claim to be anti-pet. He just says, don't get that dog, don't get that cat until after you get the relationship. What do you think about that?
That's another thing I agree with. And I know this from experience. Yeah, an animal, especially a dog, those can be the worst. I mean, they're great to have around, but with a woman, if she has a dog, more than likely she has a really strong bond relationship with the animal. I mean, that's a hurdle, and that's an issue, if you ask me. From what my experience has been, they're way too attached to those dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Way too attached. And then, like you said, I mean, you got to let them out to go poop and pee. And if they're an outdoor dog, you got to spend time with them outside. You can't just go on vacations. They have to get a dog sitter. I mean,
that's money.
It is a hassle. It's a hurdle. And I agree. I mean, all else fails a cat, because a cat, you don't have to be spending all that time with them. But a dog really takes time, and it really will cut into the person's ability to start a new relationship with someone, especially if they haven't been with someone in a long time.
For sure. And so if a woman didn't grow up with dogs, but she's in her mid-30s and she gets a dog, typically, in my opinion, this is one of my theories. This is an Alexander B's theory. This isn't a Kevin. But they're getting that dog because women especially, but you say people in general, but women especially have a need to nurture and a need to love.
Right.
So from the beginning of time to 1990, if you're a 35-year-old woman, then you're going to be married with kids. You know what I'm saying? So you got people to nurture and people to love that are in your house.
Right.
But nowadays, just recently, for the first time ever, there are more unmarried adults than married adults. And now you have these women with this nurturing need and this need to love being unfulfilled. And instead of fixing their dating life, I can just get a dog. And now I got this companionship. I got something to nurture. I got something to love. It's like putting a Band-Aid over a gunshot wound.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not really fixing the problem. This is just a short-term solution.
Yeah. And some of these women will get separation anxiety from their animals. It's crazy.
Yes. And it's also, I hate when people compare animals to humans, but if you take in consideration the strong attachment many single women have with their animals, it's like being a single mother. You know what I mean? And we just talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
The dogs are their kids. So it's just another hurdle. Dating and relationships are hard enough. So adding hurdles, adding problems, putting shackles to your ankles before you run a race, not a good idea. You want to do all you can do to not make difficult things more difficult. You know what I mean?
And you know, Alexander, I think these ladies, they, especially with dogs, they use them as a close companion that will never fail them. Your dog will always listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
They may never really upset you, but they'll never let you down. They'll never backtalk you. They'll never apply any kind of standards on you.
Mm-hmm.
You will have all the control all the time over them.
Yeah.
So I think they like that control, 100% control, no matter what. And the animal, you're feeding them, housing them, they'll love you. And like I said, they'll never disappoint you. They'll never do anything to upset you, never do anything to challenge you. So I think that it's another form of a security blanket.
For sure, for sure. I was just recently talking to my fiance about just piggybacking on what you said, like the love that you get from a dog or an infant. It's like, is it love? Yes. But it doesn't compare to, basically, it's like shallow, mandatory love compared to the love you get from a companion is voluntary. They're old enough to have a choice. They see your weaknesses and your strengths. They decide to love you anyway. And it's a true decision.
Yeah.
Your dog loves you because it doesn't know anything else. Your dog loves you because you give it everything and it's completely dependent upon you. Same with like an infant or something. Like, it's almost not a choice. So you're comparing mandatory love to voluntarily, freely given love. And it's not on the same level, but too many times one is substituted for the other. What do you think about that theory?
I agree. I think a lot of it's rooted in control. With a dog, you have unchallenged control.
Yeah, for sure. Control, and like you kind of brought up before, it's kind of a lack of trust, which links to control. Like, if you don't trust who you're with, or you don't trust that you can get somebody, or if you're with somebody, you don't trust them, then you don't want to submit. If you're single and you don't trust that you can get somebody, or you don't trust that whoever you'll get will be good for you, then you start looking for ulterior alternatives and things of that nature. It's just kind of a lack of trust and kind of going into things in poor faith, kind of like you brought up 15 minutes ago. So I hear you on that. Let's see. Another Kevin Samuels talking point is mothers lead their daughters astray. Mothers are a problem when it comes to their daughters getting married because either the mother picked the bum and modeled dysfunctional relationships, and now the daughter doesn't want any part of it, or the daughter's distrusting like we just talked about, or the mother might have had a decent relationship, but what did she teach her daughter? To be independent, to not need a man, to do this, to do that.
Right.
She didn't teach her daughter how to be in a successful relationship, didn't teach her daughter how to cook, didn't do this, didn't do that. Like, mothers aren't helping. They're more so hurting their daughters when it comes to them actually finding true love and getting married. How do you feel about that Kevin Samuels talking point? Either they don't teach their daughters right, or they model trash relationship and scare the daughter from wanting to get into a relationship because all of their relationships have been dysfunctional. Do you agree or disagree with that talking point?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think I agree with that talking point. But again, I think it's also rooted in fear for them as well. They know that they failed. The mother knows that they failed. And if their daughter finds a husband, somehow finds a man, now she's removed from mother because she has to remove herself from her mom to be with her husband. So now where does that leave her mother? Now mother has to potentially deal with the fullness of her situation. So now if that happens, she no longer has a daughter there. She no longer has this person to speak to, if they're on good terms, to speak about her problems. Her daughter may be giving her some money financially, so that might go away. They might could move, so that takes her from her ability to more easily contact her daughter. So I think that they kind of do that as a way to protect themselves, which is very selfish. And that's something that we need to figure out, why our mothers, some feel that that's the only road to go down. When you don't get stronger and your family doesn't get better if they're not pairing.
Yeah.
If the men are not pairing with the women and vice versa.
For sure, for sure. I couldn't say it better myself. Another Kevin Samuels talking point is single women keep women single. And it's kind of more the same thing, except for instead of older women in your family, it's women your own age, basically either telling you things that increase your fear or decrease your hope, or their ratchet dating lives negatively influence your outlook on the dating market. Single friends keep women single. Agree or disagree, SW?
I'm kind of in the middle. I can see how that does happen, but I think a person, especially a woman, if she wants a relationship, if she is, well, how I consider a woman that's a mature woman, how are you going to let another person keep you from your happiness?
That's a good point.
So that's why I say single does, to an extent, keep other women single, but it's going to have to come down to them, the individual person, to take some responsibility of their own lives. If you want to be happy with a man in your life, and you know that's what you see in your future, and your girlfriends want you to always hang out with them, the onus is on you to be able to say, I have a goal in my life. This is what I want.